Welcome back to Real Florida Magazine. Today we're talking to Bay Area Food Bank. Probably never have we had a more compelling problem with people in general, but certainly children having enough to eat. Today we're joined by Suzanne Rowland and Leah Weber from the Bay Area Food Bank out of Milton, Florida. They actually cover from the western side of the Florida Panhandle all the way to Washington County, in which we find ourselves today. And pure and simple, the simplest terms possible, they simply ensure that at least some kids and children are not going to go without food. In our show today, we're going to talk about the need. Most of us are not aware of that need, and we're going to talk about what we're doing. We're also going to let you know how you can become involved. This is a worthwhile cause. More importantly, anything that you donate to this group stays within your own county, whichever county that happens to be. You can actually earmark it so that folks within your county are the beneficiaries. When we come back, we're going to be talking about all this and more about the Bay Area Food Bank. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or maybe there's something you'd like to see featured, just give us a call, drop us an email, or visit our website at realfloridamagazine.org. We'll be right back with more from Real Florida Magazine. Welcome back. Today our guest is the Bay Area Food Bank. We have Suzanne Rowland and Leah Weber, all the way from Milton, Florida, joining us on the show today. First of all, wow, hour-and-a-half drive. Thank you very much for taking the time for visiting us over here to let us know about Bay Area Food Bank.
You're very welcome.
Of course.
You were just recently, today, for lunch, our guest at the Chipley Kiwanis Club. So that gives me a little bit of a head start. I'm able to more thoroughly appreciate what you do. But more importantly, in this case, know a little bit more, be a little bit more cognizant of the needs that we have here in the Florida Panhandle, and obviously right here in Chipley and Washington County, in which we find ourselves. Suzanne, you are the director of the program. Talk a little bit about Bay Area Food Bank, how long it's been around, what exactly you do, and why you do what you do.
Okay. I've been with the Bay Area Food Bank about 4 years now. It has been in existence for 30 years. It has covered through Mississippi, Alabama, and Florida, 24 different counties. In Florida, we cover 7. And we are working with people who are food insecure. They don't know where their next meal is going to come from, if they're going to be able to pay a bill, if they have a car payment or a home that they're going to be losing, or they can buy food for their family. And so in Florida, we've been doing it for about 10 years, and we've been in the Washington County where we are today since 2007, serving the people over here.
30 years. Why have I never heard of the Bay Area Food Bank?
That's probably a good question. I think that happens a lot of times. People don't realize, they hear Bay Area, they don't think it's locally, possibly. It's more Bay County in the local area, or Mobile Bay. But we've been covering this for quite a while, trying to get the food over here. And
I guess probably more appropriately, because I have not been in that system. I have not had that need. I don't work in a school, which obviously are very sensitive, especially to the children's needs. Leah, I understand that you're relatively new to the organization. You both made a presentation today to the Kiwanis Club here in Chipley, talking about this need. You talked about, in particular, Kate Smith Middle School and Vernon, in the Vernon school system, Vernon Elementary School. You said we had 18 children, and that may not seem like a lot unless you're one of the 18, but you've got 18 kids right here in Chipley at Kate Middle School who need your services in order not to leave school on a Friday and come back Monday not having had food in that interim period. How does that work? You talked about the backpack program.
Exactly. Well, what we have is our backpack program. It's not federally funded, so we work directly with donations from sponsors or people individually. We have groups that sponsor the backpack programs. They certainly can be sponsored through individuals as well. You don't have to, you can donate what you can. And it goes, like you said, it stays directly in Washington County so that it meets the children's needs here. It's $3.50 to provide a weekend's worth of meals for the child. And so for a whole school year is 40 weeks. One child can be fed for $140.
Most people leave more than a $3.50 tip when they go out to eat. Mm-hmm. To think that you can ensure that a child is going to leave school on a Friday and not worry about not eating until they come back on Monday, that's huge. And, and I'm saying that, and it's still hard to comprehend. It's hard to embrace that thought. We have lots of domestic issues, and the worse the economic times become, the more we see those: domestic violence, drugs, alcohol, any number of problems. One of the results of this is single-parent homes. Sometimes the result is no-parent homes, where a child is in foster care or living with a relative. All of those scenarios being ripe with the prospect of that child not getting the attention that he or she needs, and part of that attention being nutrition. Suzanne, it's not just about the kids, but obviously that's what seems to tug at our heartstrings the most, and it's the easiest way to get people's attention. You work closely with James Guy with Shepherd's Gate Church here in Washington County, and James is actually going to join us for the second half of the show. But you work with him, and he works with USDA. Talk a little bit about the entire program. Talk about how that works, how many people you're feeding, and how that relationship between you and James and his efforts pans out.
Okay. As a whole, I mean, in Florida, we gave out 4.5 million pounds of food basically last year to needy families. Those are ones.
Hold on. 4.5 million pounds.
Correct.
How many people are you feeding with 4.5 million pounds?
It varies. We have about 150 food pantries, soup kitchens, residential programs that we work with in the 7 counties to help meet all the different needs. And we spread the food around based on what those needs are and what the agency can actually maintain. I know Mr. Guy has a great walk-in freezer and cooler area, so it's easier for him to have some foods that maybe somebody else could not actually handle. So it does depend, but most agencies, there's usually anywhere from 150 to sometimes 450 families or more a month that they're feeding.
And forgive me for interrupting you. Go on.
That's okay. And so in Washington County here itself, last year we gave out 206,000 pounds of food to meet the needs that are over here. And by no means did that meet the needs, but that did actually hopefully help the people who were really suffering in these children. A lot of times families wait till the last possible moment before they go out and try and seek out food and help.
And that's a good point, because as you pointed out earlier today, no one wants to acknowledge the fact that they can't do it themselves. I think it's an ego or a pride situation there. And beyond that, they certainly don't want to admit it to anybody else, that they have a need, and unfortunately, you've got this kid who has no say in the matter, and his parents, being prideful maybe in some cases, are not acknowledging to the point where they're receiving some of that help. And at the end of the day, they all suffer, but the child, basically the one that's not able to make part of that decision process. Leah, with these kids that are part of that backpack program and other parts of that food distribution program, how do we decide? How do we find these children? How do we know that they're in need, that they're not able to get the nutrition that they need?
Well, we work closely with the schools and the guidance counselors and the teachers who work with the children directly. And at the beginning of the school year, they're given a form which helps identify children who will qualify for the backpack program. And so then they may not be aware of it. And so we work closely with the schools so that we can identify these children that qualify.
Do we have some children who are still not being fed for whatever reason?
Most certainly. This is a growing program, and so there's always funding that's needed. Like I said earlier, the funds carry over from year to year, so if they're not directly used that one year, they carry over the next year because they're not funded. So whatever money that we get in is the money that we have to use for this program.
Suzanne, many nonprofit organizations over the years have either been accused of or been guilty of being top-heavy, having lots of administrative costs. What kind of monies, what percentage goes into the administration of this program, and how much actually filters through and actually goes to the food that people actually receive?
I think it would depend on the program, a lot of it, but as in the backpack program, everything that comes goes right into the backpack program. But
no administration costs?
No, we do a lot of grant writing, other funding, looking for donations from the community to help us fund the overall cost and expense of the food bank. We have a 15,000 square foot warehouse that can hold multiple semi-trailers of frozen and cooler items. So it does take a lot in order to keep the food safe and secured in order to get it back out again. But we only have about 11 employees working in the food bank that cover everything from our truck drivers to the warehouse to the different programs that we operate out of our Milton office.
And obviously I was being sarcastic when I talked about that high
Yes.
overhead. And I'm not even talking about the cost of refrigeration. I'm not talking about office supplies. I'm not talking about telephone or utilities to make your office run. I'm talking about highly paid people to administer this program. It just doesn't exist in your program.
It doesn't.
You have to be passionate. You have to make this a labor of love, because I dare say you don't do it for the money, and there's got to be a burnout factor. There's got to be a point at which you've seen as much of this going on as you can take, and you have to back off a little bit. Have you found that true?
I think in anything, I've seen that in my past, but I think as a group, we work really well together and we help support each other. Being a small office, everyone pretty much at our office knows each other's jobs, and we all just work together to get it done. And we become that support system to make it through, and they all realize what we're doing. When these food pantries come through and select the food that they want to give out, and they talk about the people that they're serving, it makes it why we're doing it, and the commitment that we have in our staff is just phenomenal.
When we come back, we're going to continue talking to the Bay Area Food Bank. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can get involved. We're going to talk a little bit about those needs that are still going unfulfilled, and how you can get in touch with these folks, how you can participate, where you can send a donation if that's what you would like to do. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and we will be right back. Welcome back. Here, still talking with the Bay Area Food Bank, Suzanne Rowland and Leah Weber, talking about the fact that there's a need out there of which most of us probably are not aware. Having a little fun, we're cutting up a little bit, but at the end of this conversation, the need is still going to be there. It's interesting, these two young ladies were our program at Chippewa Kiwanis Club today, and in the dismissal of that group and walking out and speaking to several people who were at that meeting, several were just shocked to think that in our community, now we all know that there are needs. We see people running around with clothes that are not the newest, and we know that there are issues and there are social problems. But to think that somebody who could potentially be related to me is going home and with no prospect for the next several days of having something to eat, that's strong. This is not a sales effort. This is an educational opportunity. This is an awareness campaign. And so, don't take this the wrong way, but shame on you that I've never heard about the Bay Area Food Bank. We're going to help you get that word out. Leah, we talked a little bit about the summer program, and when James comes on, we're going to talk a little bit about that. He did an experimental program in Wausau this past summer. They were serving breakfast and lunch. They found that kids weren't getting up early enough to have the breakfast. They didn't have my parents, I guarantee you, because my parents were kicking the bed and throwing cold water on me if I slept past 7 in the morning. But nonetheless, reality is what it is. These kids are not getting out of the house, or possibly up, before the time that you're stopping to serve that breakfast, so they were getting lunch at least. Mm-hmm. What are the issues you're having? Obviously, as I was being a little bit sarcastic about, there's an educational problem. There's with any nonprofit, with any socially aware, contributive group who thrives or is able to do business based on sponsorships and donors, you're not going to spend your money on TV commercials. You're going to spend your money on apples and oranges and ham sandwiches so that somebody can eat versus, but you've still got to have that donor or that sponsorship effort, or you don't keep feeding the other side of the pipeline. And I'll give you a chance to answer that question in just a second. But the thing that just came to my mind is that we're very fortunate insofar as we live in a part of the country that has almost a year-round growing cycle. Mm-hmm. If we were in the middle of Kansas or in Michigan or in New England, we would effectively be out of business as far as fresh produce for 6 months out of the year or more. And yet here, and again, when James comes on, we're going to talk about gleaning the fields and being able to take advantage of some of that produce that would ordinarily be plowed under. Back to my original question. What are your challenges? One is education. One is letting the world know. What other potential issues are you facing? What are your challenges? I know you've got a pretty good network of distribution, but that's always a problem, identifying your recipients. What are some of your challenges?
Well, we always need volunteers to help, either with the backpack program or the summer feeding program. The summer feeding program is federally funded through the USDA, and it covers any child, up to the age of 18, and it's just that they need to live within the community, within the county that they're coming to be fed, and they can come and get lunch every day. And I think that some folks don't know that because of misinformation, or they're just not aware of it, so that they can come during those summer break and receive free lunches like they were when they were in school.
We talked briefly about politically correct speech and terms which, and I understand this part of it, that you don't want to make somebody feel less than what they are, and you don't want to suggest, and you've got ego issues on the other side, so you don't want to call somebody needy, you call them challenged, or you call them qualified, and qualified for a particular program. You used a term, and it doesn't come to mind, so I would like for you to repeat it. If somebody is hungry, they're called what? Food insecure. Food insecure. Now that's pretty interesting. As I pointed out, we used to call people morons, and now they're just informationally challenged. Food insecure. But when you think about it, the word insecure says it all. If you're a 6-year-old kid and you're leaving Friday from school and going, wow, I got until lunch on Monday at Kate Smith Middle School before I get to eat again. Mm-hmm. Suzanne, we're going to bring James on in a second, and I'm going to want you guys together to share some of this information. If somebody wants to get involved, if somebody wants to participate in some fashion, whether they're a volunteer, as Leah points out, you need volunteers. If they just want to write a check, if they just want to find out more so that they themselves can be part of this pipeline of letting other people know that there's a need out there, what's the best way for them to get information?
Well, there's two ways. They can contact us directly at our main office in Milton, which is 850-626-1332, or they can go onto our website, and a lot of good information out there, and it's www.bayareafoodbank.org. bayareafoodbank.org. I've seen the site. It's pretty informational. We're going to give you some video clips that we're producing for you to hopefully help spread that word. Many times people are visual, and instead of reading a paragraph, it's easier to hit them with a 30-second commercial. So again, bayareafoodbank.org. You can find out more about how you can become involved. You'll accept a check, you'll accept cash, you'll accept any kind of donation. And I don't want to go too far into it because I know that it's one of James's fortes, but the fact that there are agricultural producers, there are farmers in the area who are actually not donating because they're getting a tax break for it, but they are making available foods which ordinarily would have been plowed under. Explain a little bit about how that works. That's something we've really done a lot with in the past year and a half, and contacting the local farmers. They couldn't move the food. It's not pretty enough for the stores. They didn't want it. It's the wrong size. And so they would just keep it in their fields. It was rotting away. And so we actually work with a couple different organizations, go out there. We can either glean the crops. They sometimes actually will even get it together for us. We just have to pick it up. And it allows us to get this fresh produce right back to the people that were, going without that or don't even usually have that kind of food. But normally it was tilled under, and they never made it out to the market, and there's a couple 100,000 pounds of that out there in the state.
I'm a farmer, and I'm spending millions of dollars on equipment and fertilizer, and I'm using the best, newest information courtesy of my agricultural extension agent. I'm producing a fantastic crop, and my oranges are too big to sell, so I'm throwing them away.
Yep, or they're the wrong color.
Something wrong with that picture. Something wrong with that picture. So when food falls within those boundaries or outside the boundaries of being marketable, you're able to get this. They receive a tax break of some kind in response. And again, I'm going to have James on to talk about this, but thousands and thousands and thousands of pounds of this stuff are being distributed, and people are not going hungry because of what was originally just thrown away.
Correct. Yep.
Country of waste. I think there's been no more true meaning to that. When we come back, we're going to have James Guy with us. James is our local, he's not, as well as being a pastor of a local church, he is the local USDA representative. He is responsible for distributing many thousands of pounds of food. We've interviewed James on site when we've done some of those food giveaways. A pretty compelling story in itself. Suzanne, I'm going to ask you to stay if you would and talk with us as James comes on. Leah, thank you so much for being here. Again, thanks for making the trip. It's a new job. It sounds like you're a good fit. You're passionate. You're well-spoken already. It sounds like you've come up to speed pretty darn quick on the need and your offering. So best of luck in that.
Thank you.
When we come back, we're going to continue talking to the Bay Area Food Group. We're going to talk about, well, all of what we already have and more. There's a need out there, and this is a real easy way for you to get involved. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and we will be right back. Okay. Welcome back. Still in our conversation with the Bay Area Food Bank, now joined by James Guy, pastor of Shepherd's Gate Church here in Washington County, and Suzanne Rowland, who is with the Bay Area Food Bank, still with us. James, thanks for coming on, and thanks for being so gracious and allowing Leah to have the first portion of the show. We appreciate you being a guest on the show. It's never dull, and there's always something that you bring to the table, and we appreciate that.
Thank you.
You say that kind of with a little seed of doubt there about where I'm getting. Suzanne, thanks again for making the trip. We've been talking about the Bay Area Food Bank. The bigger picture, though, is need. The bigger picture is hunger. And again, as I think I said earlier, probably no more compelling issue, certainly nothing that gets your attention more than a kid who's hungry. You know, an adult can usually forage for themselves. They can figure something out. Right. But a child is just that and doesn't have the opportunity. James, we talked a little bit about the fact that you are the coordinator for USDA. Yeah. You did that because USDA was going to go away and because it did not have a coordinator. Talk a little bit about how you got involved in that and what you do with that effort.
In the beginning, this was about 3 years ago, the Tri-County actually had the contract to do this for many years. And for whatever reason, they decided to drop it, and it went several months, and there was no USDA food given away in our county because you had to apply, be qualified through the tax exemption, you know, nonprofit organization paperwork that's required. But as we're always looking for some way to help in our community, this was brought to my attention. I met with Suzanne and another gentleman from Mobile, and we qualified ourselves, and we actually began about 3 years ago in Washington County. Matter of fact, when we began, we were 70,000 pounds in storage waiting for us, and we started off with I think about 70,000 pounds of food ready to give out to our county. So instantly, within 3 months, we gave out close to 70,000 pounds of food.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you say you had that, that had already been either donated or purchased or secured in some fashion through the old Tri-County effort?
That was actually food that the USDA had sent to us. We receive all the food for all 7 counties and then split it up by county. And since we didn't have anybody, it was just sitting in my warehouse waiting.
In storage.
In storage.
And obviously dry goods, non-perishable.
Dry good, canned goods, some frozen.
Talking about getting a kick in the rear as a start. I mean, you were a hero immediately, weren't you?
And frozen. And the way they get it is the population of each county gets its fair share in the state of Florida. And Suzanne can give you the percentage. I think maybe we're like 3% of the population.
3.42, I think.
Of the state of Florida. So we get
Washington County is.
Yes, Washington County is. And we get the appropriate amount according to the census of the county.
3%. Now, there are 76 counties in Florida.
That's 3% of what we receive of the 7 counties.
Of your 7-county district?
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. So that's really a relatively small number because
yes,
we are a rural county. We're a very large county, but we don't have very many people,
right.
and it's based on population, which obviously makes total sense. They're not a sponsor, and I'll give that disclaimer, but you gave a very large shout out, and rightfully so, to Walmart. Both of you did.
Yes.
Suzanne, talk about your partnership with Walmart.
Walmart actually has helped us in a number of ways. They work with us through the child nutrition program. They actually gave us a grant to start the program and bought the van and gave us some of the money for food. We pick up from every Walmart in our counties 3 times a week. They donate all the food that maybe eggs are broken in a carton and they can't give them out to anyone, no one wants to buy them. They will donate them to us. Crushed boxes that may not look pretty, people do not want, same like the fruit. They will donate all that. The produce is going to be going out. And so we get all that food that we can take back to our warehouse. We then sort it out, make sure it's all viable and good to go out within dates, and then we get it back out to those who are in need. They come and help for different events and volunteer as well.
And again, Walmart's not a sponsor. They should be. So if they're watching this, they should probably get involved. In all fairness, you also pointed out that you have partnerships with other food chains. And what are some of those?
Winn-Dixie, Publix, Target, Sam's, as well as even Big Lots, other small stores will donate as well to us.
James, and I asked Suzanne first because I know that you are extremely passionate and very proud and appreciative of that relationship.
Yes.
You don't miss an opportunity to say thanks, to give them a shout out when it's appropriate. Talk a little bit about your local relationship with Walmart and the manager and how they come to the table for you.
Yes. The local manager here is a lady by the name of Joy Davis. And every time I go to Walmart, I hunt her up and I thank her for what her and others in Walmart are doing. Like Suzanne said, if there's one egg in a box, they can't sell it, so they give it to us. And at any given time, I have a giant walk-in cooler at the church. I house between 750 to 1,000 dozen eggs at any given time. And I rotate those out, first in, first out. And so we constantly, if you're wanting 2 eggs over easy, we got it. And so we have a tremendous amount. They give us, actually through the Bay Area Food Bank, we're allowed to pick up directly from Walmart here. So I get everything Walmart has. And last year they actually gave us close to 100,000 pounds of food just for our county.
We've been fortunate enough, blessed, dare I say, to have been at some of your food giveaways. One in Wausau, one here in Chipley at Shivers Park, one at your church. It's definitely heartwarming, but at the same time, it's a little chilling to see that there are that many people.
Yes.
As you pointed out, the first one that I was at, and we spoke, and then we did an interview, and you pointed out that each one of those people receiving food that day were qualified, and they were certified as having a need.
That's right.
The average person, to look at them, many of them seemed able-bodied, able to work, made me realize that who am I to judge if somebody should have a job or should not be a recipient of help? Because who knows what their circumstances are. Suzanne, you pointed out today that somebody may drive up with a brand new Lincoln, but what you don't know is that their house is being foreclosed. They're one payment away from losing that car. They have nothing at home to eat just because somebody looks a certain way. And it's sort of an eye-opener. It's a reminder that, we shouldn't judge based on, don't judge your book by its cover, in other words. That's pretty strong. Have you found that because Walmart and these other big box stores have come on board, Suzanne, that you get others participating because they realize, wow, if they can do it, we can certainly do it?
I'm not so much that they care about what other stores are donating, but I think as people learn more and more what we're doing and what the needs are in their community, they're wanting to do more to help. We see a lot more food drives, a lot more just local donors, a lot for the military, big donations from them throughout the year. They're all wanting to reach out and help out the people that are in need now, and they're realizing the need's growing.
James, you flabbergast me when you start talking about the thousands of pounds.
Yes.
Most people don't think of food in terms of pounds, first of all. I bought a pound of spaghetti, I bought a pound of tomatoes, maybe there. But when you talk about the consumption of thousands or giving away thousands of pounds of food, let's talk about gleaning of fields, because that's the one where the thousands of pounds really hits home for me anyway. We talked briefly before the break about farmers having excess produce for whatever reason. And as much as I'd like to rail on about the craziness of throwing away the food, the fact remains is that we have food that cannot be sold.
Yes.
That a farmer is better off plowing under or just simply does that because there's a lack of other opportunities. You use the term glean. I know what the word means. I've heard it, but I've never heard it used. Man, what a wonderful use of the word. You go out and you glean fields. Talk a little bit about that whole process.
Actually, the word glean was first mentioned in the book of Exodus in the Bible. So gleaning a field was instituted in biblical days, and the term is this, that you go out, and God commanded that they leave about 10% of the fruit in the field so that the widows and orphans could come after it was picked, so they might take that was left or gleaning for their own personal use. Well, today, in today's society, we have farmers here in Washington County, Jackson County, Holmes County, that grow food, and for whatever reason, it's too large, really not cute to sell, whatever that may be, it's unsellable, but it is still edible. So therefore, I found out that a ugly squash tastes the same as a pretty squash. And so we go out, and in our area, we have personally gleaned this year. We've gleaned squash, cucumbers, zucchini, cantaloupes, satsumas, and something else, and I can't remember what that was. But we pick those. We go out. We have several people I call. We go out to the field early in the morning. Squash, you get on your knees and you pick, and we bring it back. We then go about and we distribute it either at a food giveaway, or we have a list of all qualified people in our county, especially in Chipley, and it's so condensed we can basically give that away. We go to subsidized housing projects where everybody there is qualified. They're all elderly, so we don't have to worry about qualifications for this food. We take it to them, bag it up, and just walk door to door giving out the food. And it is a great thing to do.
When we come back, we're going to continue talking to Suzanne and James for a short while. We're going to talk about some more of their challenges, but more importantly, how you can get involved. You want to write a check? They're going to tell you how you can do that. You'd like to learn more about it just simply so you can pass on the word, let other folks know. If you're a member of a fraternal organization, such as I am with Chipley Kiwanis Club, a wonderful opportunity to embrace this effort, an opportunity to help these folks out, and I think that no one can disagree that it's a worthwhile cause. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or maybe there's something you'd like to see featured, just give us a call, drop us an email, or visit our website at realfloridamagazine.org. We'll be right back with more from Real Florida Magazine. Welcome back. Here, wrapping up our conversation with the Bay Area Food Bank, Suzanne Rowland from the Bay Area Food Bank, and I've been using those interchangeably, so don't worry about it. We're going to start calling them the group instead of the bank anyway from this point forward. May even rename their website. And James Guy, pastor of Shepherd's Gate Church, and as I used in the introduction of him at Chipley Kiwanis today, the single largest, probably, personal supplier of food in the county that I know of, the guy who's out there, if you don't know him for any other reason, you know him as the guy that's always giving away something to eat, and he doesn't even own a restaurant. Thank you both for being here, and you've been very gracious. The segment's going long, and I think it bears it. I think that I dare say that we've ever had any issues that are any more important than what we're talking about today. Suzanne, what are some of your challenges? You know, I posed that question to Leah when she was on or a little bit earlier. What are the three toughest things that you face? What are your three toughest challenges, the things you need the most help with, aside from needing more money and more food? What are your challenges?
Unfortunately, the biggest one is food, and that's the one thing we're really lacking and we don't see as much. As far as it may be reaching some of the smaller communities and more rural places and communities, we don't have enough pantries and soup kitchens in some areas, and making sure the food can get out. One of the things is the increase in produce that we've been receiving. It's a whole new product that we didn't have in the past. It used to all be canned and dry goods we were receiving. People don't understand how to cook it, how to store it, what are some unique recipes. And we're seeing a lot of that, you know, people not wanting it. and that has been a big challenge this past year.
Wow, you know, and that cuts both ways. On one hand, you're giving them a much superior product. What's better than a fresh tomato or a fresh squash? Yeah. And I've never seen a good-looking squash, frankly. No. But you're giving them a better product, but obviously it does have a shelf life, and sometimes a very short one. And interesting that we're not teaching our kids, or the population at large doesn't have the kind of education with home economics and so forth that used to be taught in the school, so that they know what to do with these things. Wow, that's pretty interesting, something I haven't considered. So what do you do to counter that? Do you have an arm that teaches people how to store and prepare these, or do you use other groups to be able to serve that function?
We try various things. One of the things in our warehouse, people that come in to select the product from us, the agencies, they would actually, we have recipes on the front, and we have something fresh. We might even actually make something with the product they can actually try and realize that what they can do with it. We tell them how to store it, to sample it, to realize that this is good, viable food and what they can do. During our annual trainings, we have people come in and talk about how to handle the food, how they can use fresh produce. We do some events during the year with the Extension office, so trying to reach out to different ways.
And I was going to suggest Extension. The local Extension service comes and appears on our show multiple times in the course of the year. You know, all of their members, all of whom have their own fortes, but the woman who does the educational process for just that, Judy Corbus, that's got to be a great resource for you, and in a partnership, be able to teach them how to do with that which you're giving them. It's a double whammy there. James, you talked a little bit about storage. What's the shelf life of a dozen eggs?
Really, the shelf life of eggs, if kept at the correct temperature, and this is one of the reasons I had to purchase and install a very large walk-in cooler to be able to extend the shelf life of these eggs. You can actually, I think Suzanne would maybe give you more of an exact time, but I don't keep them long enough for them to go bad. So I don't have that problem, because within 30 days I have put in new, taken out old, and we give out approximately 1,000 dozen eggs per month. 1,000 dozen eggs per month. And the produce, it's the walk-in cooler extends the life of that produce from one day to several days. So therefore I can extend it over. And to say one thing that I want to add something to what she said, there's very simple things to do. We get a lot of pineapple from Walmart. Well, pineapple within itself does not stay very long, but a very simple solution. We tell people here, take the pineapple, peel it, cut it up, put it in a jar, and they have a thing called simple syrup, which is sugar and water boiled down. You pour it on it, put the lid on it, and it will stay forever. And you just have fresh pineapple whenever you want it. So things like that is what we try to tell the people to come in and look for.
And again, that educational component, not just handing them a bag of groceries and they're going to throw away the celery because they don't know what to do with it.
Yes.
So there are more fundamental issues at hand here, really. It's not just the fact that they're hungry. Many people, it sounds like, are going hungry because they don't know how to prepare food. And if they can't go through the drive-through, they don't, what do you do with a potato? Well, you just pull it out of the McDonald's container and you eat it. Well, that's not a real potato. So that's interesting. And James, do you have that relationship with the Extension Service, or do you work with other groups that, again, help that educational process?
Really, I do it locally with the people who come. And to add to what you were saying, and most young people, they can't cook anything that's green or yellow that's grown outside. Theirs is fast food. It's put into the microwave. And when you give them collards, they have no idea how to cook collards. When you give them turnips and whatever it may be like that, they have no idea how to do it. So we sit down and say, okay, this is how you do it. And we tell them how to prepare it before they leave that day. And you would be surprised the number of people that all they know how to do is make macaroni and cheese.
Well, I know that I look forward to our kids coming to our home and staying a few days so that my wife will cook something other than macaroni and cheese. So believe me, I feel that pain.
Yes.
Again, thank you both for being here. Tell us again, Suzanne, if somebody wants to get involved with the Bay Area Food Bank, if they want to learn more about what you do, how they can get in touch with you?
They can call us directly at 850-626-1332. That is the Milton location. Or they can go to our website, and it's bayareafoodbank.org, and it's all spelled out. And
James, again, thank you for all that you do. You're a member of Kiwanis, so it was a double joy to have you there today and be part of this presentation. If somebody wants to help you in your USDA food distribution efforts, I know they can just watch for the paper or watch Facebook and find when your next one's going to be and simply show up and work. You never turn anybody down.
No.
But how can they get involved? How can they get in touch with you? What's the best way?
Really, they can, I'm in the Chipley directory, James Guy, or Sunny Hills, 773-2963. They can call me there. Or really, the way we get most of our clients, the people come, Council on Aging, Tri-County, every social entity in the county has our name and number. The Sheriff's Department, the Police Department, Red Cross, every entity that anyone would think of to go to for help, they give them our number. And we go throughout the county. It makes no difference towards Campbellton, all the way to Ebro. Makes no difference. We'll help them. And so all they have to do is call me. We need volunteers when we give the food away. And we definitely need volunteers when we glean fields. So I would love to have a list of people say, when you glean fields, please call me. A good example is, in the last 3 months, I've had 7 people call me and said, when you glean a field, please call me. I called all 7 of them, and not the first one showed up.
I know that Rick Davis, who is the director of our local Washington County Health Department, relayed the story to me that he was driving up 77 one day and saw your USDA food giveaway, stopped, volunteered,
yes, he did.
Subsequently attended your church and got very interested and made a point of telling me that, wow, you know, this guy is really doing some good stuff in the community. So it goes much farther sometimes than what you think. It's more than just giving somebody a sandwich or a bag of groceries. Again, thank you for all that you do, and we look forward to having you back on the show.
Thank you for allowing me to be here, Paul. I appreciate it.
Suzanne, you made the big drive, over an hour-and-a-half drive to come here from Milton today. Thank you for that. Thank you for being our program at Kiwanis, and more importantly, thank you for taking the opportunity in this long format to let people know. Again, if you're interested in the Bay Area Food Bank, bayareafoodbank.org. We have Suzanne's phone number and that website on the screen right now. So get involved. If you are local and want to help out in the food distribution, James Guy, and again, just ask the sheriff where he's at, and the law enforcement keeps a pretty good eye on James. Thanks for watching. Format a little different these days. Real Florida TV has become Real Florida Magazine. Basically what we've done is taken our print magazine along with our radio and TV show, put it all under the same umbrella. It's all Real Florida Magazine, now on radio, on TV, and in print format. Makes it a little bit easier. I don't feel quite so schizophrenic. I don't feel like I'm 3 different people. And we appreciate you watching, listening, or reading, whatever the case may be. You're watching Real Florida Magazine, and if you or someone you know would like to be a guest on the show, or maybe there's something you'd like to see featured, just give us a call, drop us an email, or visit our website at realfloridamagazine.org. We'll be right back with more from Real Florida Magazine. Welcome back. Today our guests are Suzanne Rowland and Leah Weber. Welcome back. Today our guests are Suzanne. Welcome back. Here still with Bay Area Food Bank with Suzanne Rowland and Leah Weber. Welcome back. Still talking to Food Area. Welcome back.